Welcome to CivilNet. My guests today are Vach Hovsepyan and Vahe Kuzoyan. Vach is Senior Vice President of ServiceTitan, and Vahe is a co-founder together with his friend Ara Mahdesian. Today, they are the leading provider of a software to support all aspects of home service businesses like heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and plumbing. They came to Armenia in October to talk about the future of their company in Armenia. Since then, they have established ServiceTitan here. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very briefly, could you tell us a little bit more about ServiceTitan? What is this about? Is it a tech company or is it a home service company?
Sure, so I'll start and I may want to add. So actually it's interesting, there's a lot of misconception about what ServiceTitan does, so I'm happy to talk about it. We are a software company and we sell to businesses our solution so that they can run their operations better. So we do not service consumers, we sell businesses who then service consumers. So essentially a software company for businesses is what we do.
Yeah, and it's a tool used by a very specific type of a business in order to essentially maintain all their operations that they would need to run that kind of a business.
Back then in October, you were thinking about establishing ServiceTitan, a branch of ServiceTitan here in Armenia. It is now done. Can you tell us about the current state?
Sure. So our goal was to have a pilot phase where we were able to put together a team of a core set of senior engineers and have them start contributing to the product specifically. And we've been very successful in doing that. So far, the results of the last, I believe it's about 5 months that we've been in operation, has been received very well by our team, and we're actually here now to think about how we can potentially expand the office and go beyond kind of this experimental phase one.
And ServiceTitan in general, what is the state currently?
Sure, so today we have a little over 700 employees. We've raised over 300 million in investment capital, and we service around 4,000 or so companies in the US.
What was interesting for you to establish ServiceTitan here in Armenia?
So the plan was to start with an area that we had a huge need, which is engineering. And so if you look at our team today, it's pretty much all engineers. The goal now is to think about how we can go beyond just a core team of engineering, and specifically to set up an environment where we're able to have more autonomy within Armenia, because the way it works today is a lot of the decisions about what to do and how to do it in terms of what we're building happens in Glendale, and then we communicate with our teams in Russia and in Armenia. And where we'd like to go is to have the team here actually making those decisions and being able to be the source of that innovation as well, so that number one, we can avoid the latency in the communication of back and forth. I have a question, someone's asleep, and so on, which makes it very difficult to operate in a remote location. And instead have it where there's people here that can make those types of decisions and not have to have that cycle. And I think it's also very important for the local ecosystem here to have that full scope kind of capabilities, not just the engineering piece, which is very, very important, but you need more than that to kind of create a business. And so the next step is really on the product management side, and we're hoping to set up kind of a similar idea of take a part of the product and carve it out and have the team own it here, and then demonstrate success and try to scale it up from there. In addition to that, we're also hoping to experiment with a service offering where we can have some of the text-based support that our customers need to have the team here being able to provide some of that. And the idea is we need, in order for the team here to contribute the most to the business, they need to actually understand the business, which is again very difficult because the customers that we have, their needs are all in the US, and a lot of that doesn't exist here. And so if we can stand up some people that are directly communicating with our customers, the idea is we can have some of that domain expertise within the team here, which can then give them more independence and give them more ability to make those types of decisions locally.
Yeah, I think just to add a couple things, I think what's really interesting here is our objective has always been to take a different approach to the operation here. If you look at what a lot of other tech companies do, not just with Armenia, but outsourcing in general. They view it as a operation where you just send work and there's engineers who do the work and they send it back. And that doesn't really help the ecosystem. It actually, in ways, it could negatively impact the ecosystem, because if you come in and salaries could rise and local companies might not be able to compete. And so our objective is very different in that we want to establish an operation in a way, like Vahe was saying, where we can actually produce work here that is then used by our customers. And that's why it's really important to have our customer voice also go through the office, so that a technical support agent who talks to the customer actually understands what the customer is trying to accomplish. And then that technical support agent can then talk to the product manager, who then can talk to the engineer. And so there'll be a cohesive kind of understanding around what is it that we're trying to do here for the user. And if we get to a point where we can actually innovate and produce functionality that can be used to bring value to our customers, that's what we will consider a successful operation here.
For a good customer support, you need to train the people here in Armenia. How do you plan to do that?
Yeah, so I can start and I can continue. But we are fully prepared to invest in development. And we also believe that that is one of the gaps in our in the current ecosystem, is that companies are much more focused on, I want to get ready-made talent and I want to get value right away. We realize that there's a bridge that we need to build, and we're prepared to make that investment. Initial thought is that we'll hire someone here who can lead the technical support organization. We will have that person come to the US, spend some time, we don't know exactly how long, but at least 2 to 3 months, during which time they'll interact with our customers, they'll interact with our management team, with our employees. They'll go through basically the exact same experience that someone goes through when they get hired in the US. And then eventually we'll bring them back and we'll build a team around them. And then in addition to that, we are also thinking about ways where we can have some of our employees from the US come and rotate through the office here, so that there's kind of constant movement happening, and the culture is actually inserted into the operation here, so that there's complete kind of end-to-end unity between the two offices.
One of the challenges that you fear to face here in Armenia was the engineers. So back then, in October when you came, you said that the engineers might need some special training to be at the right level. How is it going on so far with them?
Yeah, good question. So that's one of the areas that we were obviously very concerned about, and what we saw was that while there's obviously training that needs to occur in terms of what our business is and what we need and so on and so forth, which we need to do with any engineer that we hired, not just locally. In terms of the technical skill set, it's been incredible actually. We've been able to have people come in and start contributing and being impactful. I would say in some cases faster than we would have otherwise in some of our other operations. And so the technical skill set definitely seems to be fairly mature here. There's some specifics about our technology that I don't think are widely known, that we're starting to set up some seminars and training activities to try to bring that up. But overall, that's been very strong. We expect that as we expand our scope to go beyond just core engineering and do product management, customer support, that's actually going to be an area where there's probably not going to be a talent pool with a ton of experience, that we'll need to essentially focus on hiring for potential and then giving them that training and that experience. And so that's kind of what we're gearing up to do. But on the engineering front, we've been very happy with the quality of the talent we've had so far.
Establishing a company here from the US in Armenia, I guess there are some differences, different policies or business policies, regulations. What are those differences and what kind of challenges did you face here?
So in terms of the kind of regulatory environment, the policies and so forth, the process of standing up a business here and getting all those things, I can't say it was like all smooth sailing and everything was a well-oiled machine. But whatever challenges we did have that we escalated, we always got a positive response. And so we've been kind of very happy with the level of support that we've gotten so far. And some of the areas where I think the environment is different is, for example, we at our company, every single employee has some sort of an equity stake in the business where they own a share of the business. And so there's some tax implications around that, there's some mechanics around that that don't seem to be very well defined here. And so we've raised this issue with the government and we are working with them to figure it out. And so I fully expect, just like all the other challenges we have, that we'll be able to come to a solution on that. But there's some areas where it's clear that this type of stuff just doesn't happen here, and that there's some gaps in the existing kind of laws, processes, and just services available to do those types of things.
Okay, you also told me that there is a governmental support here in Armenia for businesses that you don't have in the US.
Well, I think in the US, it's just in a much more mature state. So, for example, if you look at California, where the vast majority of the really big tech companies come out of, Google, Apple, and so forth, and our experience as well, is we never really interacted with the government. We didn't go to them for support and so forth. But what the government did is to create an environment in which businesses like us can thrive. And so whether that's the education pipeline, the university systems, and then all the regulatory pieces, governments and structures, everything was just kind of ready to go, and there's a template that you can utilize. But this is a bit more philosophical, I guess, but I don't believe that the role of government is to have a direct interaction with these companies. It should be more focused on the environment. So I don't really think that companies should ask for more than that. And what we see here is that while some of those areas that are less mature here and that create some challenges for companies like us, there's also a eagerness and a willingness for the government to engage to help try to solve those problems. And in fact, if you look at why we're even here, one of the main reasons is representatives from the government, Tigran Avinyan and Hako Parashakyan, came to our office last year, and that's what kind of sparked this whole venture in Armenia. And we continue to meet with them. In fact, we met with Hako Parashakyan on this trip as well, and we're seeing continued commitment from them to support us and to help figure out some of these issues, and it's been great. So whatever is lacking in terms of maturity and kind of existing systems, I think is countered by the fact that there's an eagerness to try to figure it out. And so we've been very happy with the level of support that we've gotten so far, and we expect it to continue. So it's been a pretty positive experience, actually.
So you just said that you are expecting to continue. So here's my question. What are the future plans for ServiceTitan here in Armenia?
So in terms of immediate steps, like Vahe said, we want to establish a product team, an organization. We also want to establish a technical support team. We're also meeting with a lot of organizations here, universities, organizations, in different areas. And we're trying to be kind of part of the ecosystem. In fact, I think we have a presentation today for some students at AUA, and we met with the dean there. So looking for ways that we can contribute to the development of talent, specifically around everything that the universities do, and then where's the gap between the education that the students get and their readiness for actually starting a job and being effective. And we think there's potentially some areas there. There's several other things that we're exploring, nothing specific that I think, unless there's something that has come up in the last couple of days. But again, kind of keeping a completely open mind and looking at, with the primary focus is obviously on the business and the opportunities that we have already identified, that we have invested in. But in addition to that, just exploring every other opportunity that we can be helpful to the ecosystem here.
Yeah, and as a business, we're very ambitious in terms of what we want to do, and we have pretty big goals, and we think that we're just getting started. And our goal is to give our team in Armenia an opportunity to make as big of an impact on that as possible. And so we're actively engaged in trying to figure out how to do that exactly. But at the end of the day, we'd like to get as much contribution as possible and have We roughly double in size every year, and so we expect to hire hundreds of people over the course of the next year. And if a big chunk of that could be in Armenia, that would be fantastic. So the goal is to give them the opportunity and to see what happens.
Thank you, Vahe and Vach, for this talk. Thank you for watching and continue to follow CivilNet.